North Dakota. In the Steiger tractor plant in Fargo, North Dakota. We've been building them there since about 1994. They used to be built in Wausau, an hour from here, where you flew into, I believe. So the only one that is not built in Fargo is the 1221 that is built under contract for us.
We don't have access to the 1221.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, the under contract is Latin America's out.
Okay.
And it's tier 4 only.
Good. So we will talk about these products here. One thing, our case buckets are offered with the bolt-on cutting edge, or you can option out to get the teeth for it. When you option out to get the teeth, you get smart fit teeth, just like we talked about on the wheel loader. I mean, on the excavators and on the loader backhoes. So it's very easy to change that tooth out in the front. But with the bolt-on cutting edge, remember I talked about gradability on that loader backhoe because we were on that ground for a long time? If you look back here, take a look back here, you see a skid plate way back here.
Yeah.
This is changeable right with your cutting edge up there. Oh. So now look at what that gives you for gradability. You have gradability from here to the front of this bucket here. So I'm on the ground this far. So that gives you gradability. So you can hold your grade very precise. So, and that's changeable as it wears down. Our case buckets also come with a 5-degree tilt on it. So you see this heel is off the ground a little farther than the front. So 5 degrees will help that to roll into that bucket, and they will fill much easier. So as you approach that pile, that'll come in and roll in that bucket and fill it much easier. So we call that an easy fill bucket. Standard equipment on our case buckets. Large beam up on the top here. This beam you can use for leveling, just from eyeing it up. But we do have return to dig, or return to level. So it will detent in the rollback position to a level position. So you don't need an indicator, but you do have one with this right here because it's the same as the bottom of the bucket. Our pins are off the ground as far as possible, so it stays out of the dirt. They are greasable, so you can purge that dirt out of them, but it's up off the ground, so it lasts longer. Z-bar linkage. Z-bar linkage is known throughout the wheel loader industry because this makes a Z, and what in essence why that is very well received, and it is the most productive linkage that you can get because the Z-bar linkage actually uses that cylinder in the reverse action. Remember on the loader backhoe where I talked about a cylinder by nature will draw in very quickly because the rod's displacing oil, and the piston is in the middle of that cylinder. It's more powerful on the outstroke because all of that pressure is on the entire back of that piston. So it's stronger in the outstroke, faster in the instroke. So with the Z-bar linkage, you're using that cylinder in the reverse action as opposed to being directly mounted to that bucket. So your dump is very fast and your breakout force is very high because of the power stroke of that cylinder. So that's why a Z-bar linkage will be more powerful into a bank than a direct linkage that we'll look at after this. I'll show you our direct linkage and the purposes of that. Going on a little bit, we do offer the Z-bar linkage in the extended reach on all of our models also, giving you added length to that loader arms for extra high trucks and extra high loading. So extra reach, you'd have to go to a smaller bucket. Like this one here is a 4¼ yard bucket. You'd have to downsize that bucket if you are going to a little bit larger bucket.
Larger reach.
Larger reach, I'm sorry. Yeah. The axles on here. Outboard, I'm glad you're listening this time. Our axles, they are built for us by ZF. Very, very good manufacturer of axles and transmissions. We use their transmission also. So very reliable, but the characteristics that make it good are outboard planetaries and outboard wet disc brakes. Remember back to the loader backhoe again. That mechanism is outside, out close to this wheel hub, so your weight is outside, So your balance of that, the weight to the outside is important for productivity. Serviceability. High speed, low
Most
torque,
efficient
all the
way
way
to
out to the
transmit power.
outside. Easiest way to hold bearings in. They don't mind running fast. If they run slow with a lot of torque, you get flexing. So with our outboard planetaries, we run that system fast, all the way to the outside, and where we need the power, we reduce it down to power. So it's the best way to hold all the bearings in too, and make it very serviceable. You see the fender package, that is standard equipment. One thing that is a little bit misled, ride control is known on wheel loaders throughout the world, and it's a very productive option that you can put on a wheel loader. It is not standard equipment. So as a dealer, you need to, if you want ride control, you saw what it does for you in the demo, where it gives that front end an independent ride. If you can imagine a wheel loader going down the road, what happens as soon as you get it up to about 15, 18 miles an hour, that whole thing starts bouncing. If it was bouncing and you hit ride control, it would smoothen it right out and you could go to its full speed of 20, 25 miles an hour.
You don't need it.
So better roading, and even to put it on in the auto position, you put it on the auto position. In fact, let's look at that dash real quick. The dash that is on the side over here, the ride control is this button right here. So that is kind of the universal symbol for ride control. It is a 3-position switch.
You have to hold it down.
So nope, all the way down is off. If there's certain applications you might not, like grading, you don't want it on because you don't, with ride control on, you don't have any down pressure. So when you're grading and leveling up a job site, take it off because it's better for grading. You can get more weight to your bucket. On the center position of this 3-way switch is the auto position. We have a speed sensor in the transmission, and when this comes to 3.1 miles an hour, it will kick on. That's where you want to run 99% of the time, is in auto position, the center position. All the way depressed on the top is on all the time. If you had a quick attach on there, that, you want to hold on to that? I like to talk with my hands, but if you had a quick attach on there, you would, and put pallet forks on it, you would want to run in ride control on at all times because you're really just lifting and setting. The auto position is important for productivity because if the operator would leave that on at all times, if you went into that pile, you would have to charge the nitrogen pack before that loader lifts, and when it does lift, it lifts very spongy. So you don't get that breakout force, that snap that you would get. So you want it off when you're going into that pile. If it's connected to that speed sensor, which it is on the auto position, when you slow up to go in that pile, it kicks off before you get to that pile because you're lower than 3 miles an hour. Get in there, you dig. When you back out, you automatically come up over 3 miles an hour and you'll see it engage automatically. Now you can back up a little bit faster, you can get up to your truck a little bit faster and not spilling any material. Once you slow down to dump into that truck, you don't want that ride control on. If that ride control was on when you dump that load out, it would literally jump after you dump that load because that nitrogen is charged with that extra power that was gained by the weight of that machine or the weight of that material, and it would literally jump that bucket. So you need it off when you dump your load.
So it's better to keep
Here
it on
again,
auto.
in auto, it is off when you're dumping. So run it in auto 99% of the time.
No, that's wrong.
So
You run it in auto 100% of the time.
no, if you had pallet forks on there, you would want it on all the time. Some other times when guys are plowing snow here in the North Country, they will here, I'll put it right up.
No, I don't.
They will put it in ride control for snow removal or grading that way.
Well,
Other
Peter, help
things.
us out, Peter. Hey.
Okay. So let's talk about the rest of the dash on the
Have
side.
some use.
The
Finally.
rest of the dash on the side, obviously this is the joystick. You can get the joystick control for the loader, or you can get a 2-lever control. You'll see the 10 and 1121 with a 2-stick control in there. That is an option. Some guys normally in this country, they actually like it on the large machines for pit application. So,
We normally bring them all with the 2-spool joystick.
okay. And the switch up on top here is for forward and reverse. As opposed to on the, they all have standard equipment on the side of the steering wheel, forward and reverse, shuttle lever there. This first switch will engage this to use as your forward and reverse. If you had a 2-stick option on here, there would be a little switch off to the side here that you would just hit with your small finger for forward and reverse. So you still have that available
3-speed
standard
transmission?
feature. What's that? It is a 4-speed transmission. Do you get the 5-speed option over there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we now make it available on the 6, 7, and 8. No, 6, 7, and 8. A 5-speed option with a lockable torque converter. Why would you want that? It will save fuel if you're roading a lot. It will also save fuel if you had a long distance to run with. If you were transferring this pile 1/8 of a mile down. If you're doing a lot of that running with material, that lock-up torque converter will save you time and fuel. Because as you shift from second into third, it will lock that torque converter up and give you, in essence, a direct drive. Direct drive will not slow down as you're coming up a hill, so your speed is maintained better and more fuel efficient. So that option is a nice option for that and roading. Other things that I want to talk about on here, this has auxiliary hydraulics to the front if you're going to run a clam bucket or anything like that. This one also has a hydraulic quick attach, because that is this switch here. That is an option. This one also has a reversing fan, and that is an option.
All ours carry that. Because
Okay.
of the heat and the debris, and we
Okay.
put that standard
So
on
you
all.
put that on all of them, so
That's
your
the voice of
reversing
it.
fan switch would be here. I'll talk about that in just a
voice.
minute the rest of the way. This happens to be one with the 5-speed because I have the locking torque converter switch here. You can elect not to lock that torque converter up. So if you engage this, the light will be on and it'll have that lock-up torque converter. So it also comes with the 5-speed. It also tells me that this has a specialty front axle because this is your diff lock. You enable your diff lock, you do have a button on the floor then. Don't get misled by all of our floor mats are identical. And to find out if it has limited or if it has lockable differential in the front or the specialty axle, if you push on this little rubber tab that is here, I don't know if there's a little rubber bump on the right here. I can feel a switch underneath there. That tells me I have the specialty front axle because standard in here is limited slip differential in the front. Talk about that in just a minute. So I enable that here and I step on that button to lock that front axle in the specialty application. The other switches that I have here, return to dig. Return to dig, we talked about that on the loader backhoe.
Which one is it?
Right here.
Okay.
So it shows the arrow up, and what that does, if you are dumped below level, your joystick will detent in the rollback position. You could literally pull your hand off. The operators don't pull their hand off, they just feel that. They kind of relax their hand a little bit. As soon as it snaps back, they know it is level. We don't have a level indicator, but we don't need it because we have the return to dig. We have it on a switch because for certain applications you would not want